Alright, so recording now. I kept forgetting to record last semester. Okay, so welcome everyone to our class, EGME 306A. I'm your instructor for the semester. My name is Patrick Phelan. You can just call me Patrick, don't call me professor, or, I mean, I guess you can if you want, but I'm not a professor. If anything, I'm just an instructor. But you can just call me Patrick, that's totally fine. Alright, so I'm a grad student here at Cal State Fullerton in my last semester. So for those of you that have had me before, this is the last time you'll have me for any class. And so I'll see you guys obviously on campus for this class, but maybe just on campus too when I'm on there for my other class. Anyways, so again, you can just call me Patrick. I'm totally fine with that. So today's going to be pretty relaxed. All we're going to do is kind of go over the course. We're going to go over Canvas, get a preview of the experiments that we're going to do. And then at the very end, we're going to go over, it's kind of random, but having dark mode in Matlab. For those of you that had me before, you'll remember I think I did that on the first day as well. So a lot of people like dark mode, of course, so it's just a quick add-on that you install for Matlab. So anyways, that's what we're going to do today. It's going to be pretty, again, relaxed. Alright, so I also have slides that I made for today. I never use slides for this class, for lectures or anything, but I made them for today. So they've been up on Canvas for a while, so you might have seen them already. So we'll go over that. So let's see. First thing, we'll just get this out of the way, which is meeting times for this class. So I know that I've gotten a few questions about when we're going to be meeting in person versus when we're going to be meeting online. Okay, there we go. So, the only time that we're ever going to be meeting in person is when we have an experiment. So if you want like a hard and fast rule, that's it. So when we have experiments, we're going in person and we're going to first meet at the classroom. So that's engineering room 42. It's kind of in the quad that's around the computer science building and the engineering building. So are most of you juniors in this class? I think you've probably been on campus to see where this class is, but we've been online so long now, I don't know for sure. But it's easy to find. It's just around the quad there. Lectures, they're always going to be online on Zoom at this same link. So the link, I gave you guys that in I think 2 emails that I sent out. But the link is also on the Canvas website as well. And irregardless of if we're meeting online or in person, it's going to be every Friday at 8:30 a.m. That's when it starts, going to 11:15 a.m. I doubt we're ever going to take the full time. There might be 1 or 2 experiments where we might get close, but I still doubt it'll take the full time. Also, this is, hopefully you don't need to pull a Tina, and if you're like sick with COVID or something, obviously if you're sick with COVID, don't come to school, but if you're sick with COVID or anything else and you can't do an experiment in person, hopefully you don't need to pull a Tina. Hopefully you can make it up at a different time. But if you're ever sick and you can't go to an experiment or some emergency pops up, make sure you let me know so we can try to work out when you can make up the lab at a different time and then again in person. Alright, so before we continue with the slides, we're going to go over Canvas a bit. So I'm sure everyone knows how to use Canvas now. I think it's actually required for all faculty to use this semester. I hopped on that right away because it's way better than Moodle, which is titanium. But anyways, so if you're on the course website, you log in, click on Canvas here or on the left. And then our course, we're 306A-03. If you have the question, why do we have Teddy here for our course image? I don't know, I like Teddy, and I made sure there was a tool, he's using a drill. It's related to engineering. Maybe not really our class, but yeah, I don't want a boring image, as I kind of have some here. So this is the home page for the course. I have everything laid out by lab, so I think I haven't done this for my labs before, but I think it kind of makes more sense to group it like this. So all of these images, once we get to those respective labs, they're going to be clickable. So for our first lab, that's going to be weeks 1 to 3. You can click on that image, and that'll take you over to this module page for that stress and strain lab, which is going to be over the course of the first 3 weeks. You guys not seeing my screen?
I can see them.
Okay.
I can see them.
I can see your screen, just I can't. The images aren't coming up on my Canvas page.
Oh, I see what you mean. How about, oh really?
Links still work, but there's no images.
Oh, that's weird. No one.
Yeah, same with me.
Okay. Huh. I'm gonna have to look into that then. So none of, like, even up top, or just the course or the lab images?
The lab images.
Huh, okay. That's weird. Because they're just local images I uploaded. Anyways, I'll look that up. That's pretty weird. Okay, so thank you for telling me, because no one said that yesterday, and I'm sure it's the same issue. So eventually, you can click on this image that will actually show up, and that'll take you to this module page. And I'm going to have, like one page for each week. So for the first week, also, I'm going to specify for each week if it's virtual or if it's in person. Again, the lectures, they're always going to be virtual. So that's going to be, for us right now, weeks 1 and 2. So you can click on that and then have my little Facebook mom image here. So if you click on that, you can always see the schedule. You can see any files or important links up here. So right here, I'm also going to upload the recording for the lecture afterwards. So I upload those to YouTube. I'll post a link here once it's uploaded on YouTube. Okay, so today you can see the schedule. And again, I'll always push the schedule first. It's going to be pretty basic, right? It's going to be lectures, and I'll kind of post, what we're going to talk about. And then for the lab, once we actually do that, it's just going to be the experiment, and that's it. Once you are done with the experiment, you're free to leave. But we'll talk about that once we actually get there. Okay, let's go back to the home page. Let's see. So up top here, we have all of the important links that you're going to need for the class. So this is always going to be the same Zoom link here for a lecture. And then here, a Zoom link for office hours. So they're going to be virtual as well. I have office hours every Monday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. I know some of you won't be able to make that. So if you need to go to office hours and you can't make this time, then just message me in Discord, or you can email me and we'll schedule some other time. Or also, I'm pretty much always on Discord, so if it's a question that we can just answer in Discord. Number one, if you have a question on a lab, most likely other people do as well. So you can ask in there in the general chat. But if you want to just talk to me, that's fine too. You can send me a PM, or we can schedule a meeting through Zoom. Alright, contact info, my name, email, my name on Discord. This is the Discord link, so I keep mentioning Discord, but I haven't talked about it too much yet, so I will in a second. And this is the invite link. YouTube, that's my YouTube channel where I'm going to post all of the recordings. So to access the lectures that I've recorded, you can either click on the module for the lab and go kind of week by week, and you can access it that way. Or you can just go to the YouTube channel and I'll have a playlist for this class. Okay, VKS. That's a website that we've had over the past few years that Dr. James and another grad student made, where it's kind of like, it's a website for the online procedures for each lab. So it's been really useful in the past. You still have a lab handout that's like a PDF. It's typed out, you can see the procedures on there. But I think VKS is really nice because you can look at, actual images and see what you have to do. So I think it'll still be useful, but I just found out, I guess 2 days ago now, that all of the computers and the software in our lab, they were upgraded. So I haven't seen it in person yet, but the software looks totally different from what I saw from Dr. Sue. So the procedures on VKS, they're going to be a little bit different because the software, it looks like just extremely different. But we'll figure that out once we get to the first lab. I'll look at the software beforehand. Either way, the software, it's usually just like kind of zeroing stuff out on there and pressing start and stop. So it's really simple stuff. Okay, so any questions before we move on to some other things so far? Oh, okay, yeah. So I just went to student view and I don't see the images too. And then it might be just an issue with this course because if I'm in another course and I go in student view, I can see them. Okay.
I found something that if you right click and hit view in new tab or open image in new tab,
yeah,
it says unauthorized.
Oh, okay.
And same with the YouTube image, but like
Yeah.
if you use it on the Discord image, it worked. Like you can see the little Discord guy.
Okay, I think I know what's wrong then if it says unauthorized. It's probably trying to pull these images for my other course, and because I just copy and pasted or I imported stuff, so that's probably why. So I'll have to like re-upload all of the images on this course. So anyways, thank you guys for letting me know about that. Okay, so Discord server. So I've been talking about that a lot, or mentioning it. So this class has a Discord server. So if you click on this, it's the invite link for the server. I know there's already a lot of you on there. So if you go on there, join, basically you can talk in this general chat basically about anything, obviously it can't be, I don't know, like keep it, I guess, I don't want to say professional, but because you don't need to be professional, but don't be doing weird things in there. So you can talk in here, and then I'm going to have a channel for each lab that we have as well. So right now it's just going to be lab 1, of course, but once we get to the other labs, I'll add a new channel. And in there you can, talk about any questions that you have for that lab or whatever. Okay. Also you can, send me a PM, again, if you don't want to have your question or something in front of everyone, but in general, if you have a question on a lab, so do other people. Okay, let me go back here. I'm going to close out of that for now, just because my speakers are loud. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, or give a little preview for the experiments that we're going to have. Alright, so I just want to do this, for a few minutes, just so you guys get an idea of what we're going to be doing this semester, if all goes to plan and we can do each lab in person. Just because, I don't know, for me, I always like knowing what I'm actually going to be doing in the class, like visualizing it. So anyways, our first experiment is called stress and strain, and I'm adding this part on, the extensometer, which is a tool. It's kind of, in my view, it's one of the more important aspects of this lab. So that tool is right here, that's kind of clipped on to this metal rod that we have. So for this experiment, we have 3 different materials. We have aluminum, 1018 steel, and 1045 steel. So we have all 3 of those, and for each rod, we're going to subject it to a tensile force using this machine here. We use this machine in, I think, 5 out of the 6 labs. It's called the MTS Insight Tensile Testing Machine. It's a huge mouthful, but we're going to be using that pretty often. So anyways, this machine, it's it's holding this rod in place, and we're going to be applying a tensile force, which you will control via the computer with software. And this extensometer is clipped onto it, and basically as we apply tension, the rod is going to deform, and this extensometer here is also going to deform at the very same rate. And that info for the extensometer, that's getting sent to the computer and being logged there. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep applying tension, and eventually the rod is going to neck. It's going to get smaller and smaller at a localized section of that rod, and eventually it's going to break. And it's extremely loud. It kind of sounds like a gunshot, so it scares people every single semester. So I'm telling you now so you're prepared. And from that, we're going to have stress and strain data, and we are going to calculate the elastic modulus, and we're going to compare that to published values. Okay, obviously we're going to be talking about all of this in depth next week for the lecture. All right, Lab 2, it's very similar to Lab 1. So we're measuring stress and strain once again, and we're using the extensometer again, but we're also using a new tool, which is going to be the strain gauge. So the strain gauge, that's right here. It's kind of glued onto our specimen. And what that does is it measures strain directly, or it gives you strain directly by measuring changes in electrical resistance on this strain gauge here. So basically there are two different methods. We have the strain gauge and the extensometer, two different tools to obtain strain. And we'll be using both of those to see which is more accurate for published values for the elastic modulus. So that's the goal for the second lab. And this time around, we're not going to be breaking the material because it would basically be breaking right where the strain gauge is, and we don't want to ruin that. So we're going to be keeping this within the elastic range, meaning that, we can deform this and we can release the load, and everything is going to come back to its original position. And the software is going to do that automatically. There's a limit, so you can't exceed a certain load and break it. Right. The third experiment is called the beam. So you can kind of see on the side here that it's an I-beam, and it's a simply supported I-beam. So we have a support here and a support over here, and we have two equal loads that are kind of in the center of this beam. And what's going to happen is the beam is going to bend, right? And the goal of this is to compare our theoretical calculations for deflection and bending stress to our experimental results. So this little thing here, it's actually really nice compared to the old tool that we had, which is to measure the vertical deflection. You see there's like a little line here. That's the very center of the beam. And theoretically, that's where the maximum vertical deflection should occur, because, gotta get my ruler here, my prop. We're gonna deflect down like that. In the center, that's gonna be the maximum deflection. So anyways, this tool, it tells you it directly, right? There's a little nub right there, for lack of a better word. And you can't really see it too well, but it's measuring the vertical deflection. It tells you it directly. So again, we're going to be measuring the deflection and the maximum bending stress for this I-beam experimentally, and we're going to compare that to our theoretical equations that we've used to see how they compare. Fourth lab. This one is usually the biggest pain in the ass of all the labs that we have. It's really chaotic, and it's my least favorite, probably. It is cool in theory, but it's usually just a huge pain. So for that, we have a variety of hollow aluminum rods, and they vary in length, I think from 1 inch to 12 inches. And what we do, we're using our same machine as always, but the fixtures that we have on this are different. So here we have one end support here for our rod or our column, and another one up here. And so we'll have a variety of fixtures as well. There's pin, pin fix, and fix. Also, I'm saying a lot of terms that I'm kind of saying it with the, I don't want to say assumption, but I guess assumption that you guys have taken 331 already, which is stress mechanics. I know that's not the case for maybe, I don't know, half the class. So I know some of you already took stress mechanics, some of you are taking it right now. So you might not know some of the terms I'm saying, but that's fine. We'll talk about it during the lab. And also, for the most part, what you guys learn in class, we're also going to be talking about at the same time for the lab. So, going back to this, we have different columns, and we're going to be applying a compressive force on these columns. And they're going to fail by either kind of crushing, and those are going to be for our very short columns, or they are going to fail by stability, so they're going to deflect out weight, I guess quite a lot, and those are going to be our longer columns. And kind of more in the middle, it's going to be a combination of kind of crushing a bit and also failing from stability issues, which is, it's deflecting out a lot. So the easy part for this lab is finding that maximum load that each column can take, because you can just read that from the log that you get on the computer. You'll see it reaches some load, and then the load just drops. So you know what that maximum load is. The hard part, and you can see this dial gauge here, is measuring the deflection, how much it deflects outwards. That's a huge pain, mostly for these short columns. So you see here, this is deflecting on this side here. So this dial gauge should really be over here from the very beginning, but it's hard to know which plane that the short columns are going to deflect outwards. So it's really hard to measure that deflection because you got to be on that kind of right plane. And actually, it seems like pretty often lately for the last few semesters, at least in person, a lot of the instructors actually don't even deal with measuring the deflection, just because again it's such a pain. So we might do that this semester as well. We'll see once we get to it. We might just measure the load basically. Alright, fifth experiment is the Charpi Impact. This is a pretty fun one because again we're going to be breaking some things, and we're using this. This is the Charpi Impact test setup. So it's a huge pendulum basically. Also, I'll just say this now, I think this is 60 pounds, so if you're lifting it up, make sure you don't destroy your back. Sometimes we'll have 2 students lift it up, so it's easier to lift up. And for this experiment, we're going to have 3 different materials. They're going to be like really small, and there's a little notch in them. We'll talk about why once we get to that lab. But we place those down here. So it's a little hard to see, but we place it down here on this kind of block. And then we release our pendulum here. It swings down, it hits it. It's going to break that material. And on the front here, this dial gauge, it's going to tell us how much energy that material has absorbed. Okay. And I guess the unique thing for this lab is that all of these materials, we're going to test each one in a variety of conditions. So that's going to be from liquid nitrogen all the way up to it kind of baking in an oven for quite a long time. No cursor too? Are you kidding me? Wow, okay. I guess I gotta figure a lot of these things out, huh? Because I've been pointing this whole time. Okay. Anyways, You don't really need the cursor, I guess, but it does help to point stuff out. So what was I saying? So yeah, there's a variety of temperature conditions that we have. So that's from liquid nitrogen to an oven. And you'll see that for some materials that the change in temperature is really going to affect how much energy it absorbs. And for others, it's not going to be affected by temperature too much, even though that's a huge range in temperature, right? From liquid nitrogen to being in an oven. So it's a pretty cool lab, and also we're going to look at the fracture surface as well, with kind of like a macro camera, kind of. So we'll see that fracture surface up close, and you'll see how they change if it's a fracture mode of being basically brittle or being really ductile. Okay, last lab that we have very end of the semester is the double shear lab. So I guess I can't point really. You can't see the cursor, but there's a rod here, and we're going to apply a force down, and that's basically going to cause this rod to fail along two planes. It's going to have it fail by shearing along these two planes. And then also for this one, we're going to look at the fracture surface afterwards with the macro camera again. And we're going to see what the surface looks like, and it's going to be really different for these materials that we have. So if you compare it for like steel and our copper that we use, they're going to be very different. For copper, it's because it's much more ductile. So anyways, that's the last lab. So I just want to give you guys a preview on all of those experiments, but any questions on any of them? I know I talked about quite a lot of things here, but any questions you want answered?
Professor?
Mm-hmm.
When we're in person doing the labs, are we going to be with a partner, or is it all individual?
Yeah, good question. So it's going to be groups of 4 to 5. So there's 4 stations in the lab. So we're going to have 4 to 5 people per group. So we'll figure out the groups probably before we do the lab. So we're going to meet in person in class. We'll figure out the groups then. You can choose your own group. And then we'll go to the lab. We're moving one station. Oh, you can't see my mouse. We're moving one station back by that door in the back there. So we're a bit more spread out in person compared to past labs. Alright, and then another question, do we need safety goggles? Yeah, I forgot to say that. So yes, you need either safety glasses or safety goggles, so make sure you get them if you don't have it already. At least a few years ago, I haven't been to the Titan store in a few years, but I'm pretty sure that they sell safety glasses. I'm not sure about safety goggles in the store. So you can go there if you want. Or just get on Amazon. You got quite a while until our first lab, so you can do that.
Professor,
yeah, make sure you have them. Mm-hmm.
Is it okay if the safety glasses have like a yellow tint?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Okay. Osceola, I think that'll be okay. Should be okay, yeah. So I will say there are, at least in past years, there have been some extra glasses in the lab, but you really bring your own, because always what happens is people, they use the glasses in the lab, and whether it's intentional or not, because you might just forget, of course, but students always end up taking those glasses from the lab, and we run out of backup glasses in the lab, so it's always a big pain in the end. Also, since we're talking about safety a bit right now, make sure that you're always wearing closed-toe shoes. If you're wearing sandals, which people do sometimes, if you're wearing that and you don't have any other shoes, the lab technician will kick you out. So make sure you're wearing shoes all the time in the lab.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Are Crocs okay?
I guess I don't know. I would guess no.
Okay.
I could just see that the lab technician wouldn't like that.
Okay, no problem.
Professor.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you still gonna go over like any other things we need to do, but like as far as like I guess related to like if we have to do any paperwork or anything before we meet in person? Because I haven't met in person, so I'm like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if like for students that have never met in person yet, like is there extra things we need to do or does that make sense?
Not that I've been told. I haven't been told any of that.
Okay, great. So like with some classes, I hear you have to register certain things and whatnot. That's what I'm getting at.
Oh, yeah, no, not for this
Like
class.
vaccine things or no.
Yeah,
Okay, great. That is awesome. Okay.
yeah.
So like they won't let me in if I don't have certain things or like you got to wear a mask, right, or something.
Yeah, you have to wear a mask indoors. Outside, they don't enforce that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I
I
think
actually haven't been on campus yet this semester, so I don't even know how they're enforcing. You can get tested every week, or you can be fully vaccinated and you can send in your stuff. So I don't know how they're enforcing that. To be honest, I haven't been on campus yet.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So I will say that in past semesters, we usually need, and I will give you this in person, we need to have you guys fill out a form on safety. That's for the lab itself. So I'm sure once we first meet in person, I'll be given that by the department. And before we head over, you guys gotta read it through and then sign it. Basically, it's just saying that, you're gonna be using your brain and you're gonna be responsible that if there is an incident, you have to report it to the department. It's just a safety document. Okay, any other questions before we move on? We're going to talk about the syllabus now. Okay, actually before the syllabus, we'll talk about VKS. So again, that link is up top here. I just added last night the username and password. So that's under here, under week 1. I did not make the username or the password, so I know that is not the most secure password in the world. Not that we really need that, because it's for school. So you'll click on VKS, you'll sign in, and this is the home page for it. So we have 5 experiments that are on here. We don't have a module for the 5th experiment, but that's okay. We don't really need one for that. So, So what I did, I'm looking at the first experiment. I click on this eyeball to view it. Opens up a new tab. You can press test, proceed, and then start. Or I guess new and then start. There's a lot of things you gotta click. Okay, so basically, again, this is like an online procedure kind of thing that you can look at during the lab to see what you need to do. You're also going to be given a lab handout, a PDF that tells you everything as well. So I'm not going to spend time on each of these images today, but just scrolling through here, you can see that it's pretty good. It's pretty detailed for the most part, and you get a good idea of what you have to do, especially for this part here, when you're inserting the rod into one of the jaws on the machine. You can see that we need to leave a bit of space. So I think past students, they really enjoyed this. I know I sure would, because you can see basically everything that you need to do for the lab. But again, the software for this semester is different. I'm not sure how different it is. It looks, from the very few seconds I saw, it looks pretty different. So I don't know. Again, we'll get to that when we get to that, right? Once we get to the lab. I'll also be there, of course, during the entire experiment if you guys have any questions. Alright, so that's VKS. It's always been helpful. I'm sure it'll still be helpful even if you can't look at the software side of things. You can look at the pictures of the test setup. Also, it's just coming up right now. I thought about it. So don't bring a flash drive to the lab to put your data on that flash drive stick. The lab technician doesn't like that at all. It's always scared that someone has they're gonna put malware on the computer. I know you guys wouldn't, but basically what I have to do is I have to use a flash drive that I'm given. I'll get all of your data that you collect, and then I'll upload it to Canvas later that day. Okay, syllabus time. Okay, so the syllabus is online. I'm just pulling it up here though. There. So I'm not gonna talk about this, too in depth, but we'll go over the important stuff. So lecture location, virtual. If we have a lecture, the location is always going to be virtual through Zoom. This is the link here. The link is on Canvas as well. It's also in that email I sent you. If we have an experiment, that's the only time that we're ever in person for this class. We're going to first meet at E42, and then we're going to walk over to the lab, which is literally right next door. Meeting times always Friday at 8:30 a.m. to 11:15. That wherever you're going to take the full time. Office hours, virtual, every Monday at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. If you can't make it, let me know. We can set up a different time to meet, or you can ask a question in Discord. I'm there pretty often. Got my email. Course description, we already went over what we're doing this whole semester for the experiments. Prereq 225, I have no idea why. You don't need that for this class. 102, that's, what is that, AutoCAD? I don't know why that's a prereq either. So, CoRec, Matlab. We're going to be using Matlab in this course, I'll talk about that. And then 331, your stress mechanics class. You don't need any textbooks at all, so don't worry about that. This required one, that's just the lab handout that I give you that I get from the department. Okay, attendance is going to be mandatory, so if you miss a lab, if you're sick with COVID or any other illness, don't come to the lab, okay? Let me know that you can't make the lab that day, and we'll see if you can make it up in person at another time. If you can't, which might be the case, then it's okay. You can still do the lab, you can do the data processing, and still do your lab memo, but I want everyone to attend basically every experiment, but I know things happen, especially now, so if you can't make it, just let me know. Okay, so Discord, we already talked about that. That's the invite link once again. So for the grading, we have 80%. That's going to be from your individual lab memo, so you got to do that by yourself. So we have a lab memo for each lab, and all of them are going to be equal weight. And in total, that'll be 80% of your grade. 20% is going to be the final. I'm thinking at this point in time, that's also going to be online. The final also, I just want to throw this out there, it's not going to be super theoretical like your stress mechanics class. I will say, some instructors do that, so when you take your other labs like 306B, that's the fluids lab, it might be pretty theoretical. I don't like that. What I do for the final is I make it based off of what you did in the lab. You might have a few theoretical questions, but it's mostly going to be testing your knowledge for what we did for the experiment. So if you show up to each experiment and you help, which everyone should be active and not just standing there doing nothing, the final is going to be a breeze. Alright, late lab report. So each day that the lab report is late, I'm going to dock 10% off, and that'll be up to 5 days late. Anything after that, you're going to be given a 0. So you have 2 weeks to do each lab report. So that's going to be a long time. So there's no good reason why you can't do that in 2 weeks' time. Well, I guess unless you're bedridden on a ventilator or something. Hopefully that doesn't happen though. Okay, so you're always going to submit your memo. I'll say report or memo, I mean the same thing. You're going to submit that as a PDF through Canvas. I will have an assignment page just for that. Okay, it's got to be typed. So all of the memos, they're done individually. So you can work with, your classmates on, doing the data processing if you need to. You can ask me for help. So you can work together, but what you type, what you put in your memo, that has to be your own work. Okay, so we're also going to be using Matlab in this course, so don't freak out if you see that right now. I know some people, they aren't confident in Matlab. I know when I took this course myself, if I was told that I had to use Matlab, I would be freaking out personally. I was not good. I had really bad knowledge of Matlab back then. But don't worry, don't freak out. We're going to be doing a lot of it together. I'm not totally sure on the format yet. It'll be still online though. For however I do, I might record a video, but I would like to do some of this as a class so I can answer questions, in real time. Yeah, if you had me for Matlab, I hope you feel confident, on your own to do it, but either way, we're going to do a lot of it together as a class. I mean, also, for you, it's been a while since you were in the class. I'm guessing you may have never even used it since then.
Professor?
Mm-hmm.
I just had a question about the lab. Are we allowed to take pictures in the lab, to document things or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea to do that. Yeah. Okay, and this is the structure that you have for the memo. Oh yeah, also, by the way, I require the use of Matlab not to, to punish you or torture you or anything. Really, it's not that. That's why I'm also going to be helping you. But you're going to need it for other classes, and if you have no experience in Matlab and you need to do a complex project, might be in the kinematics, might be, for me, it's when I took a tech elective, aerodynamics, it's going to really suck. So if you already have that experience in Matlab, you're going to be in a much better position than other people. Okay, so the structure for each of the memos is laid out here, as well as the point distribution. So really make sure that you take a look at this, because everything that's here is exactly what I'm looking for when I grade the memos. So abstract, I think a lot of you probably haven't written one yet. So I'll talk about this once we approach the lab. After we do the lab, probably I'll talk about the abstract in more detail for how to write one. I'll probably give you some resources as well on Canvas. And yeah, because that's a really important part. That's 25 points. Okay, and then the results section, obviously that's really important too. And my biggest pet peeve is when people post plots and numbers that they need to have in the results section, and that's it. So if you present something in the results section, you need to have a little bit of discussion, or really what I would say is an interpretation of that data. Again, we're going to talk about a lot of this in more depth once we approach the lab. We're just kind of breezing through it right now. Discussion and conclusion, you're going to expand upon the results that you just presented. You're going to have some form of error analysis, whether that's human error. Also, don't just say, yeah, there was human error in this lab. What was the human error? If there was, I don't know, an issue transferring files or something, just be very specific on what that human error was, or more likely it's going to be something was wrong with the test setup, Maybe a fixture was damaged, or maybe the extensometer wasn't in the right place. Those would be sources of error. References, basically 5 free points. So that's, I think for this class, I think every lab will have references. So that'll be when you look up a published value for the elastic modulus. You need to make sure that you have that referenced in your report. Appendix, this is mostly for sample calculations, and I will always tell you what sample calcs I expect to see on the memo. So it should be a free 15 points, but it's often not. I don't know why. Maybe it's, I don't know, sample calcs aren't even that hard to do, it's just, I tell you what I'm expecting to see, and you just need to run through one calculation. So if it's like a sample calc for stress, you just do one calculation for that, and that's it. But it'll be like stress, strain, elastic modulus, it'll be a few. And the last part is formatting and clarity, so mostly just having a good structure for your lab report. You can read through all of this though. Okay, lab report format. So this is mostly like a guideline that I have here. You don't need to follow it exactly like your headers. I don't care if you have these headers. Just be consistent in your formatting throughout. You do need to have equations, or you need to have equations centered on their own line if you have them. And the most important thing really is having captions on your figures and your tables. Lab safety policy, so we already kind of talked about that. Safety glasses, having closed toe shoes. Long pants, I don't think that's ever enforced. You might want to wear them in a case, but it might be pretty hot too. I don't think that's ever been enforced in the lab. Okay. So if you have special needs, hopefully you've contacted DSS already, but if you haven't, their phone number or their email, it's here. So make sure you contact them, and then they will contact me, and I will be sure to give you whatever accommodation that you need for this class. Academic dishonesty, obviously, don't cheat. I'm thinking I'm going to use Turnitin this semester just to help enforce this, because there's always a few people that either use a past lab report, which is obvious, by the way, because the data is going to be different, and I can easily tell that. Or people, they copy and paste with, again, like a past lab report or their classmates, and that's also obvious. So just, don't cheat. You can work together, but what you type on the memo, that's got to be your own work. And of course, on Turnitin, it always says like you have like 30% as the same as someone else, or something like that. Don't worry if it says that. You will, of course, have some things that are the same. Like if you're defining something, or you're maybe the sample calcs, your plots are going to be the same, at least very similar. So don't freak out with that number. Okay, then tentative schedule. It's tentative, right? So things might change. Usually, like 1 or 2 weeks might get, pushed back. It happens, right? So especially with COVID, there could be changes, right? So this is the tentative schedule. If things change, of course, I'll be as clear as I can be for that updated schedule. Alright, and the final exam, that's subject to change. I'm planning for that being on a Friday. I don't think you'll have any finals then. Usually there's like a final exam schedule, but for labs, there's none. So we'll make sure that you can take it though, so don't worry about that. Okay, any questions on the syllabus?
And just to clarify that we do not need a textbook?
Yeah, you do not need a textbook.
Okay.
The 17th was the final, Professor?
Yeah. That should be a Friday, unless I messed that up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So the very last thing, if there's no more questions, is it's going to be on Matlab. Again, it might seem pretty random. Some of you, I know, probably don't care about it, but we'll take a look at Matlab too, I guess a little bit, just the interface. If you don't have Matlab right now, that's obviously totally fine. You want to make sure that you download it though if you don't have it downloaded. So you can just go to Google, type in CSUF Matlab, and there's going to be instructions on how to get it. It's going to be very easy to install. So, I think you should have used MATLAB before though. So hopefully you still have it installed. So I have these instructions as well. Oh wait, can you guys still not see my mouse, by the way?
I see your cursor blinking, but no mouse. It's
Okay. That's weird, but it's okay for now. So yeah, the slides, they have these instructions as well. Or you can watch this video back later when I post it, or you can follow along now. So I'm saying or showing you guys how to get dark mode, just because I know a lot of people like it. MATLAB doesn't have any built-in dark mode, which is insane. I don't know why. So this is the best option that you have. So we're in the Home tab here, and oh, sorry, I missed questions. Okay, yeah, you guys answered it. And yeah, you can have it on multiple computers. So we're on the Home tab. We're going to click on Add-ons. And this window is going to pop up. And up here in the search bar, we're going to type in Matlab-Schemer. We'll press Enter. And it's going to be the very first result. So it's called Matlab Schemer. And by the way, I think all of these are vetted by MathWorks. But this is a very popular add-on anyways. I've had it for years. It's always been fine. And you can actually look at the source code if you really want on GitHub. So once you click on this, it should be the first result. So Matlab Schemer. Over here on the right, you should see, for you, if you haven't installed it, it should say like add to MATLAB, something like that. So you'll do that and it'll just install very easily. And at this point, what you can do is over here on the left-hand side of my MATLAB, it shows the current folder that I'm in. And if I click on Open Folder here, it's going to change that folder to where this add-on is installed on our computer. So it did that automatically. And the only reason why I'm going here is so we can look at this Schemes folder. And these are all of the default schemes or templates that we have for this add-on. That's the only reason why I went to this folder. You don't need to be in the folder to use this add-on. So to use it, we type in schemer _ import, and then we say whatever scheme that we want to use. So we'll say like monokai.prf, and we'll press enter. And there we go. Now we have dark mode. So this top toolbar, it doesn't change. This little divider, that doesn't change either. It can't, which sucks. I know. And so what we can do if we're, we can type in a new theme, of course. So let's do, I know some people like solarized. There we go. And yeah, kind of fancy. I like it. So if we type in sections, for this theme, it's really hard to see, but there should be a section block. Maybe I should change it. Let's go back here to Monokai. Okay, so you see if I have a section that there's even a color for that. And the only other thing I want to talk about is how to go back to the default theme, for MATLAB. So for that, we can type in again, schemer _ import, and just default.prf, press enter, and everything's reset back to default settings. You see that our section kind of color, it's yellow now, that's the default. So you can also change the color settings by yourself. You can go in the Home tab, go to Preferences, then go up here to Colors, and here you see Restore Default Colors. Press that, press Apply. But that's only changing, well, most of it, but it's not changing, this section color. So for that, you have to go to Programming Tools, which is right below Colors. Click on that, and you need to reset this as well. It was hiding over there. You can't see it, but it's right there. we press that, click apply, and then it's reset. But you can skip all of that by just typing in this command here to reset back to default. Okay, so I went over that pretty fast. So you can look at the slides again. I have step by step what to do, or you can look at the video back later on. Alright, so that's how you do dark mode. Alright, so I'm gonna make sure we talked about everything now. Yep. So before we end for today, are there any questions at all for anything for the class?
So we have nothing really due for a few weeks at least.
Yeah.
Until... Okay.
Yeah. So the first lab, that's in week 3, and then from that point, you have 2 weeks to work on the memo. So the first due date is going to be at least week 5. So yeah, pretty far out.
And so we usually always get the same amount of time. Like we always get 2 weeks for each memo.
Yeah.
Okay. And like, I guess, would you say that the memos take like a long time or like a pretty fair amount of time to put together?
Probably a few hours at least. A lot of it really is the data processing, which I'm going to help you with.
Oh,
and
great.
that's not too long. And then I do a memo instead of a lab report to save on time. So it might take a few hours though. Yeah, probably.
And also, like you said, things had to be centered. But like, let's say we don't want to type out like with certain symbols and equations and stuff. If we just have a screen capture or like a picture, can we just make that like a figure of like the equation we used? Or
for like sample calcs?
What I mean is, or like, yeah, the part of the lab. See, I'm not familiar yet, but the part of the lab where we're doing, because like if you come up with a number, you have to show the equation that you used, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I was thinking like I was just gonna screenshot like the lab report or whatever, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I will allow that for sample calculations. If you do it by hand, you can take a picture of that and do that for your sample calcs. Yeah, I know you're also talking about just in the report too. Yeah. So in the report, if you have an equation, you should type it out. It's I know people hate the equation editor in Word, but you should type that part out.
Oh yeah, but I was just gonna say, like, if it's already typed out somewhere else, I couldn't just capture that. That's what I'm saying.
You can just copy and paste it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because if it's already typed out like somewhere else, where I found whatever. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
not written out. Not written out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you can do that. Okay. Any other questions? Alright, so there is no more questions. That's it for this week. Remember, next week it's going to be online on Zoom once again. We're going to do the lecture for the first experiment. So, if there's no questions, that's it. You guys are free to go, and I'll see you next week. So have a good weekend.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, Professor.
Thank you,
You too.
Professor.
I've got a question, but it's not related directly to the class. You're using Linux, right?
I am, yeah. You
So-
got a good eye.
I noticed that you're running Matlab and stuff, which is Windows only. So how are you running that? Are you using Wine, or are you using something else?
No, you can install it on Linux. I think they even have their own guide. So I'm using Arch, which it's in the AUR. But I don't know, what distro are you using?
Oh, I've dabbled around with Ubuntu. I'm running on Windows though mainly. I've heard of people being able to use a VM to run Windows programs on Linux. I was just curious about that because
Yes. I think you don't even need to use Wine. I think directly out of the box, Matlab does support Linux. You might need to kind of do a few little tweaks. I had to, but it's not too difficult. You could take a look at what they have here.
Also, how are you doing the screen cap? Not OBS, right? Or is that something through Linux? I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm using just Zoom right now. Although Zoom is kind of crappy for the screen recording, but OBS is also supported too, so I use that sometimes.
Oh, because I noticed that you're like we can't control your screen capture. So I've never seen that before. So I was just wondering how you did that.
It might be because they don't have as much support on Linux, to be honest, Zoom, so maybe that's why.
Oh, but you can basically put your picture wherever you want on the screen.
For this, I'm using I'm not using
cool.
Zoom because Zoom sucks for that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. How you're doing that? Because I think a lot of professors could benefit from that.
Yeah. So for this, it's actually what's running right there. It's using Fmpeg, if you're familiar with that, and also it's called gphoto 2. So it's just running a script basically.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I was about to mention FFmpeg. That's like basically the only thing I use my Linux partition for. It's so useful. I love FFmpeg.
Yeah. It's great.
Work on Windows.
Yeah. So yeah, you can look into that though. Matlab should be supported for on Linux, but again, you might need to do like a few kind of configuration things, but it shouldn't be too bad.
Cool. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, I don't know about the Ubuntu install, but for me, like, if you use Arch, well, actually, I'll just show you this way. All I had to do is type in yay Matlab, and it's right here, number 3 here. I again had to do like a few things to get it to run a little more smoothly, but it's not too bad.
That's
okay.
Cool.
Is Linux still free? Because like I haven't had it for a long time.
Yeah, totally.
I haven't used it since like JC and when I was taking computer science.
Yeah, I used it a long time ago too, probably like when I was in like middle school, right? But a few years ago, I gave it a try again, and it's great to me. It's a lot better than Windows for most things, right? I know you can't use everything on here.
Yeah, my JC told me that it was pre-required to do C++ for this major, but then in the end, when I got to the university, they were like, "Nah, you don't need it."
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds kind of weird.
No, yeah, I don't know why it was written on the recommendation sheet too. Like the counselor even told me I had to take it.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is.
I gotta agree with you that like I feel like Linux is way nicer to use than Windows, but also I'm kind of stuck on Windows to use SolidWorks. So I was like, if you figured out a way to like run Windows programs smoothly like that in Linux, I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, for some things like SolidWorks, yeah, you still gotta use Windows, but MATLAB is good. I haven't had any issues. But yeah, I have a different hard drive, so because I need Windows 2 for my classes for ANSYS. Alright, so anyone else have any other questions before I end the meeting? Alright, if not, then I'll see you guys next week, okay?
Oh, actually, so there's other sections like that are the same, like at different times, right?
Yeah.
Those are all full though, right?
I'm not sure. I think my Thursday one, I think there's actually one free spot now.
Oh, like, do you allow fluidity or like if we're able to like go to different times in case, or no, not really?
For the lab, well, only if there's a free spot, because we can't have too many people in the lab because of COVID stuff. But
yeah, lab is more like
so you just need to check, or email me like ahead of time to see if you can go to a different section, and then I'll let you know. But
for
it usually
lecture,
doesn't happen.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
For lecture, if we join this Zoom meeting, will it be like again today or no?
Yeah, it'd be the same thing, same exact link and all that.
Oh, great! So like, if we happen to miss this one, would it be all right if we joined like a different one?
Oh, a different section for the lecture. Yeah. So that's going to be a different Zoom link for my different sections, but I upload all of the lectures anyways on YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. That's it. Have a great weekend.
Okay, thanks. You too. All right. Anyone else?